and welcome to Adobe Developers Live 2023, our content and commerce. For this session, we have Fahd Siddiqui, and he's going to be discussing scaling shopping experiences with catalog services. It's all you, Fahd.
Thank you, Russell. So yes, as Russell mentioned, my name is Fahd Siddiqui and I'm a Director of Engineering at Adobe Commerce. Today, I will be talking about our Commerce SaaS services and the performance that you will get for accommodating enterprise scale. Here's a quick agenda. Broadly, I'll be talking about three sections of this talk. The first, I'll start with catalog SaaS service. We'll discuss about that. We'll also have demos. I have two demos lined up. One of those demos is going to be a video, but the other demo is going to be a little bit hands-on. We will also tackle not only from the read performance perspective, but also from the indexation perspective, which is basically when you update a massive catalog, um, what is the acceptable scale and performance that you would want for that update to show on your storefront. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And then we'll continue, we'll touch a little bit upon it on extensibility with API mesh. We have another talk later in the day with Chris Partika, and he'll actually deep dive into API mesh. So highly recommend you to attend that talk if you want to get deep into API mesh. So Catalog Service is a multi-tenant SaaS service that we released this year, actually earlier this year, and it provides additional API surface to make product and category data retrieval faster. Now, as a cloud service hosted and managed by Adobe, it is incredibly resilient and elastically scalable. It is built to boost performance and accommodate enterprise scale. It is also fully integrated with API mesh for easy integration with other services. So it hyper boosts, if you were to like take a big level picture, your shopper discovery experience. So it's your product detail pages, your PLPs, your category pages, search results pages, and product carousels. When you look into catalog service as a SaaS service, you also obviously gives you a headless API. And it's not just a pristine API that is giving you catalog, as we'll see soon, that we took into account some of the use cases that basically, require a massive scale, and it becomes a bottleneck. So our APIs are very, very sensitive to those specific use cases instead of being just a CRUD API kind of call where you get catalog, but then you need to update your options and stuff. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. On top of that, we also provide you a gateway so you can pick and choose if you want catalog service along with live search or PREX, product recommendations, at the same time, or you just want to stick with catalog service. The choice is up to you, but it is very seamless integration for all of these SaaS services that we have. A high level architecture now. So basically, when we're talking about our SaaS services, they are a part of the same SaaS platform. So if we look at this diagram and we go bottoms up, the first thing you want to do is you want to sync your catalog with your Adobe Commerce system to our SaaS based platform. And it comes out of the box with SaaS data exporters and catalog schema and data so that you can do catalog sync. One thing worth mentioning at this point is all our SaaS services, and that includes the syncing services as well, are all API first. So while you do get these out of the box data exporters, these APIs are there available for you to use outside of it. If you have other integration patterns that you want to use these APIs with as well, then you're more than welcome to do that. So once that catalog sync happens, there is another layer, which we call the management layer. And this layer is where you configure your SaaS services. So for example, if you have live search, you can configure your rules and synonyms and faceting options there and decide on your dynamic facets as opposed to pinned facets. All of that is available again through API first admin services. Um, Obviously, it is available out of the box. Again, it's API first, so you can use it in any which way you want. And then finally comes our storefront layer. Storefront is specifically equipped to be fast and performant and highly, highly scalable. So it offers you headless API, where if you have a headless storefront from beginning to end, you can totally just use the GraphQL API that catalog service offers, and use that as you deem fit. We also have pricing adapter that comes out of the box if you're on Adobe Commerce and using Adobe Commerce as a storefront. Further, we have a live search widget. The difference between the two is subtle but important one. The one that I just mentioned, pricing adapter, what that does is your calls are still going to your Adobe Commerce, but the adapter then proxies it to the SaaS services. There are trade-offs, obviously. The trade-off here is your time to value is uh, minimum when you go through this route. However, you may see a little bit performance impact because it's making two hops and it's going through this pricing adapter. So for that, we have also released Live Search widget that actually bypasses Adobe Commerce and goes directly to catalog service. Again, going from the bare minimum, and it's kind of like a cake. So you have headless API. You can use APIs directly if you want to. There's pricing adapter where if you want to get time to value and you want to start off as quick as possible, you can definitely choose that. Then you have live search widget, which still is better time to value because it is out of the box. You do get widgets. You may have to do certain customization for your website, but you are getting better performance because it's going directly to SaaS. And then we also have AEM SIF adapter. And we recently, actually, it's not even made it to this diagram yet, I realized, but a few days ago, we released our live search widgets for AEM sites or that are on SIF. And then obviously AEM Edge Headless, which is what the majority of this at Lives is about. We definitely can use our live search API with Edge. In fact, we have done some. If you haven't read Mark Becker's blog, I would highly, highly recommend to read that blog because he goes into how he was able to use, or we were able to use catalog services fast API to make one of the fastest e-commerce websites out there. So the key thing for catalog service is hyper performance. So when I talk about different SaaS services, so when we're talking about live search, there are certain features that come up, and we're talking about using Sensei powered AI ML. If you're talking about product recommendations, there are other feature sets that we talk about. Catalog service, while being a SaaS service, the first and foremost goal of catalog service is hyper performance and enterprise scale. So with that in mind, you can see these benchmarks over there. Again, being a cloud managed service, it's incredibly resilient, uh, better TCO for you, so lower total cost of ownership. As you can see, most of our SLAs or P95 latency is within 250 milliseconds. Actually, median average is 100 milliseconds. Median is a little bit above 100 milliseconds, but it's definitely really fast with 4 nines SLAs. So again, just to recap, you can retrieve your product information. Again, if you remember, I talked about pick and choosing. You can use catalog service and also federate to live search. Basically, you can boost your PDP and PLP and category information based on your needs. Because it is headless architecture, we were talking about Lighthouse's score earlier in other talks. It achieves 90 plus Lighthouses scores for your catalog pages as well. As you discussed earlier, you can remove limits on catalog SKUs if you're using catalog service. And then SaaS, it's a SaaS service. So by virtue of that, your total cost of ownership is drastically reduced. All right, time for a demo. So one of the things about this demo that I'll go through is, if you remember, I talked about we augmented the API surface. So what I meant by that is we actually added some APIs like refined product, because we realized that there are certain use cases that are just not addressed by giving you a catalog API. And one of those use cases is fitment use case, or in the automotive industry, it's also known as YMM configurator or year model make configurator. Something like how this screenshot, shows you. Essentially what that is, you can imagine if you have a massive catalog, such as this, auto manufacturer, you may have like a half a century worth of models and makes and years. And, if you're auto parts, then you can think about auto parts that are not applicable to some years and are applicable to others. And even though these are like four drop down boxes here, there's an entire YMM configurator that our clients have to worry about, maintain, nurse Elasticsearch indexes or whatever, so that the end user is able to select their vehicle, right? Um, this also shows up and is presented in a different way sometimes. And let me see if I can. So here's a demo. Obviously, you can see it's all fictitious using Adobe Firefly. And another way, the same use case that I just showed about fitment shows up is you'll have a bunch of options. And depending on what option the customer chooses, your pricing may change, right? So here I'm going to say, go ahead, select me a black. Oh, this is a demo, live demo. So this has to happen, I guess. All right. I selected yellow. Yellow is better, I guess. So we select different options. And with that option, the next two options will also have limited options based because I use diesel. Maybe there's only a few transmission available there. So I select that. And then when you do that, notice how your prices are changing. Um, so, we just kept a car scene for our demo here, but you can imagine we had a customer who has cakes, and you can, decorate your cake and have all different kind of options that will change your prices. So this is really important, and catalog service just does it for you without you having to go through the high maintenance cost of making sure that your uh, options are correctly indexed for fast optimizing. So how do we do that? So I will actually go through the um, the API here. So this is our refined API. As you just saw that um, we were looking at our car over here. And one thing that I want you to note here is the options field on this side. I'm going to highlight it. Hopefully it's not too small for anybody. And you can see that all I see is one option, and that option is fuel type. The reason for that is that I've already selected in my call option IDs that are already there. So um, let's say I take away the transmission. I'm going to take away this transmission. Now notice right now in the options, all I see is the fuel type option. Now if I send it, it understands that I haven't selected my transmission. So now the response will actually have fuel type and it will have transmission. And also you'll notice that my price range is going to be different, all within 200 milliseconds. This isn't staging, so please don't go on what we're seeing here. Um, So this is something that is highly, highly useful for our customers. And with that, I want to move on to the next piece. So far, what we have been talking about is on the read side. So on the shopper experience side, um, how we are really fast. But reality is that most of the time, the bottleneck happens on the indexation side. So, okay, everything is going well and holiday season comes across, you have some promotions or you want to update, especially for B2B clients, there are different dealerships or different customers who want to update their prices. And so the problem statement becomes that The large B2B catalogs, sometimes they take inordinate amount of time to just import and sync prices, also known as reindexation, to the storefront. And that happens because sometimes in Adobe Commerce or other commerce systems as well, it's a product of different variables. So it's customer group, depending on websites, quantity of items, and so on and so forth. So if you have just one price that changes for a particular product, um, you may have to reindex all your websites, all your customer groups, and so on and so forth. So basically, this is just going through a problematic customer use case. So consider a B2B customer that has like 56 store, 58 customer groups, and 308,000 products. So 308,000 products on the face of it is not massive catalog by any means. But when you add 56 stores and 58 customer groups, and then you exhaustively explode the combinatorial mathematics there, then the price reindexing will take almost like 8 hours. But if you just look at the real count of unique prices, we can potentially reindex it in fraction of the time there. So what is happening behind the scenes? So let's look at where we are when we use one of our SaaS services, let's say Lysearch. So in this diagram, you have the browser up top. So that's your storefront. Then you have your server, and then you have your SaaS services. When we use Lysearch, then what we have done is we have created faster retrieval time. So that's great that we have faster retrieval time. But again, our write piece, the reindexation piece, it still relies on the same core indexers. With SaaS price indexing, what we have done is we've taken the most expensive box here, which is the indexation, and we have moved it to the Adobe SaaS infrastructure. So that is where all the heavy lifting happens. And once you do that, then what you see is that you don't need these indexers in your course, so you can deprecate them. And basically, we're doing the heavy lifting here. So now we are elastically scalable. We don't have redundant indices. We obviously have faster retrieval times, but we also have faster ingestion as well. So when you do remove pricing indexer from our benchmarking, you can get to 90% faster. We have put this um, we have put this in production with some of our bigger customers, and they have seen, 10x improvements, both in their read time and their ingestion as well. So with that, I'm going to play an audio. If someone can tell me if they can hear the audio here, that would be awesome.
Nothing yet. Do you just want to talk over it, Fahd?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can talk over.
Okay, yeah, there's no audio, so just go ahead and just talk
That
over it.
that's okay. Not a problem. Okay. Thank you for letting me know that. So let me take the audio. Okay. So basically, if you go in here, what we are seeing is 2 million records that we have created in Adobe Commerce with 1,000 customer groups. So, which means that that's an effective SKU of 2 billion effective SKU products. And if you look at here, you can see that all the prices are there. It's already imported into SaaS. So the demo is going to be about how we will use our APIs to actually update these products. So just to show you and demonstrate that these prices are actually getting from SaaS. And indeed that you have 2 million product search. So you can see all our API driven. You can see our storefront displaying the price of $99.99. So let's go back to here and we can update this price over here using APIs. So we're just showing you the prices here, and then let Go here. You can see that this is the same price that is being returned from our SaaS services. And now the prices are going to change. So we're using another mutation API, which will update the prices to $1.11. And here you can, those who are familiar with Adobe Commerce, um, they'll identify this screen. These are all the indexes that run as soon as you update your prices. You can see catalog data exporter, which is responsible for sending the prices to SaaS. So we're going to rerun this API. It was $99.99 before, and now you can see the amount is updated to $1.11 in catalog service. And I believe we can now see that in our UI. I'm going to fast forward it a little bit, and you can see that it's $1.11 as well. And the same thing will be true for our admin screen. And you refresh it, and there you go. It's $1.11. Uh, the video had nice music background as well, which unfortunately you didn't get, but that's okay. I hope it was fairly clear. So with that, I'll move on to, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to touch on extensibility with API Mesh, but Chris Partika is going to deep dive into API Mesh, and so highly recommend his talk later in the day. So why did we invest? So I'm going to just take a high level view over here in API Mesh. So we try to make composable commerce easier. So, and we have three big approaches for that. The first one is obvious, which is API for SaaS-based services. We had been doing this for the last 3 years, or maybe even more than that. We have SaaS-based services like live search, fraud recommendations, catalog, and payments. And then obviously you can integrate it, third-party SaaS services as well. They're all API first, so sure you have that. But more importantly, if you come to think of it, to keep your TCO lower, you need an orchestration layer, and that is what API Mesh does by making sure that you're able to integrate it in a way which keeps your TCO lower and you don't have brittle integration points. The second strategy that we have over there is how we integrate and extend using App Builder, which is already a fairly mature product that is being used not only by Adobe Commerce, but other products as well. Actually, Adobe Commerce is a late adopter to App Builder, but we provide that so that it's very easy and seamless to integrate App Builder with with Commerce events. And then finally, the third approach is that out of the box, we have Adobe Experience Connector, which will capture data and events from Adobe Commerce. And using AEP Connector, it can be sent to other products such as AJO, CJA, or RTCDP. And finally, we can build event-driven apps with Adobe Developer App Builder. This is something that Nishant also talked about. But basically, out of the box, we get these events, and by using App Builder, it's very seamless to just subscribe to IO events and get these events and create extensibility and functionality using App Builder and API Mesh. And with that, I am done. And I think Misha Kotov is
Yep. We're just
on
waiting to see if there is any
first.
questions posted. So just give us a second. Do you have the final slide with the QR code?
Yes, I do. Let me. Oh, I'm sorry. You mean the QR code for the question?
Yeah, yeah. Where
I
people can
mean,
continue the dialogue after the fact.
don't have that
Okay.
actually.
No worries.
Let me see. No, sorry.
Okay. I don't see any questions that were being posted. So for this, I think we're going to just wrap up just a few minutes early. No big deal. Um,
Cool.
I'd like to remind everybody our next session is going to be how Amazon sales channel uses commerce UI and events driven extensibility. And I really want to thank you, Fahd, for showing up today. That was a fantastic demo. And for that, I think we will close this session down and everybody have um, a good break. Thanks,
Thank
Fahd.
you. Bye bye.